This is the Sport Fishing Championship.
And let's get this day started with stop number 5 from the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic in Biloxi, Mississippi. It's a Gulf event. We've got the Gulf and the Atlantic, but the beautiful Gulf of Mexico will play victim to these anglers heading out on this first day here in just a moment. Looking at the Sport Fishing Championship, we have 11 events in total. 2 divisions between the Gulf and the Atlantic. We have 3 different events you must compete in to be considered a qualifying Sport Fishing Championship team. The top 20 teams in each of those events will score points. Those are the event points, but then we also have the catch points that will be accumulated throughout the year. That qualifies you for the Bill Fishing Championship, and where we will award a $1 million prize at the end of the season in Puerto Rico. We want you to be a part of it in each and every stop, but you definitely have to follow us till the end. We're in Mississippi. It's a Gulf Coast event. This is the premier destination for the Gulf Coast fishermen. The Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. Millions and millions of dollars on the line. Point Cadet Marina is going to be the launch site here in just a few minutes. About less than 30 minutes time, they will be launching all of those 78 boats heading out to the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Welcome everyone inside our studios. I'm Robbie Floyd. We'll be joined by Ronnie Moore here in just a second. And it is game time. Again, these guys have done all their preparation, getting ready for this day. We've already seen them fish in a couple of Gulf Coast events, and now it's time to kind of set that tone and build towards the final and the championship in Puerto Rico. Again, the playing field is the Gulf of Mexico. We've taken off from there before, and they're going to be working their way in various areas, very similar areas than we've seen here as well. Speaking of Gulf of Mexico, speaking of Biloxi, Mississippi, let's go on site with Site 1, and my partner Ronnie Moore is not next to me in studio. He is on site, and Ronnie, good to have you there. The hair's a little messed up. Now you know what I feel like covering fishing events around the country on the water. But it's a great day for fishing and catching, right?
I said I've got the Robbie Floyd hair this week with how breezy it's been in Biloxi this week, and it's only going to get breezier, Robbie. A lot of teams are looking over the next few days of what the weather's going to do. Heading out today, not too bad at all. Fishing tomorrow, it's going to be a little bit more of an uptick, but not too bad. On the way back, though, those teams will make sure the strategy of the run time, that's going to impact where they go and how they make their way back.
Yeah, and as far as this launch site, it may be different, but the waters are very similar. The boaters that we are seeing, the anglers, the captains, very similar field. But this is a very, very strong field. They say it's the premier billfish event in the Gulf of Mexico, and I can't say that I disagree with them. Millions and millions of dollars have been paid out through the years.
Well, 20 years ago in this event, over 1,054-pound blue marlin was caught in this tournament. It's the record for this tournament. It's the 20-year anniversary of that. It's obviously the 26th year of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic as well. A lot of teams have showed up into this event as well, Robbie. We've had teams at these other events that are 40, 50 teams. This week we have over 70 teams and a $1.3 million pot that all of these teams are fighting for this week for various species and for really honestly dominating this event in Biloxi.
Yeah, and we've mentioned that this is just one of our Gulf events. Again, 5 in total. This would be the 3rd standalone Gulf event. Let's look at the standings after 2. In the Gulf, it is Southern Charm leading, and they're not only leading here, they're leading the overall big picture as well, but there's been more Gulf events. Moncherie quantified. Consistency wins championships in 3 and 3. As far as event finishes, that's why Southern Charm's on top. You see just how tight it is. They will accumulate those event points and how they do at this event, but those catch points are so critical. How many fish you catch throughout the week, those keep adding on throughout the entire season. Speaking of the big picture, let's take a look at how they acquired these points. Here's the catch points. Those 21 will keep carrying on. The SFC points, those would be the event points. You're going to take your 3 best of those events. Again, you have 5 opportunities, but 3rd and 3rd for Southern Charm, Ronnie, that's what's leading them right now, and they keep doing that. They keep catching these blue marlin. They're going to stay on top.
Yeah, they've been rock solid consistency-wise, and they're in it for the long haul. They're planning to fish as many of these SFC Gulf Division events they can. But looking at Mon Cherie and Quantified in second and third, we obviously saw Mon Cherie take a big leap forward in catch points and winning the event in Louisiana, and then obviously Quantified taking the title in Gulf Shores, the last one. Both of those teams, though, have a first-place finish and a ninth-place finish. If they can replace that ninth with a good one this week and then maybe another good one, they'll have 3 great finishes for their catch point total to add to, and they'll be on top.
Let's take a look at this. Is looking back on Southern Charm on the first 2 events. Again, each and every stop we try and bring you as much live coverage as we can. If they're closer to the shore, of course, it makes it much easier. We're also going back and forth with our camera boat, or the camera boat operators stay on that boat all day, and we're bringing you this footage either same day or that next day, and this is showing some of Southern Charm's catches. Again, different than maybe we've seen in the Atlantic, where we were in the Dominican Republic and they were going for white marlin. Blue marlin is key here in the Gulf of Mexico.
And for Southern Charm, the owner, Ron, and the captain, Landon, they are just so excited to be here. They want to perform every day. They don't want to get ahead of themselves. They never want to say, look at what we've done, we're the best right now. They want to say, if we stack one good day of bill fishing, Robbie, and they stack it on a second one, on a third one, we will be in a good position this week and overall for the year.
And this is Southern Charm. We're taking a look back at their history so far in the Sport Fishing Championship. Earlier this morning, we got to sit down with Southern Charm and talk to them about, what it takes to be a competitor in the Sport Fishing Championship. Again, there are 78 boats heading out this morning. Only one will be the champion. Only one's leading the Gulf. Only one's leading the SFC, and that's Southern Charm.
Day 1 of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic here, and we're in the team Southern Charm's boat. We're here with owner Ron, Captain Landon, and you guys obviously are very skilled billfish anglers, but you know how it is. One day it could be really good, one day it could be really bad. What is your mindset when you go out there each day?
Well, every week, you can go from hero to zero, and you just got to go out and prepare as best you can, have your team ready, make sure everything on the boat's ready to go, and go out there and work the plan that the captain creates with the team.
Well, Landon, I talked to you yesterday a little bit, and you said, hey, we don't like to get ahead of ourselves. We like to fish one day at a time. If we have a great day of bill fishing today, stack it on tomorrow, it's just going to mean we're going to have a good tournament and a good season. Right now, though, halfway through the Gulf Division, you guys are the top dogs in the points race. Going out here in Biloxi, you guys want to have another good event. What do you think the recipe is going to take to do that, stack another good tournament?
Absolutely. Starts with one. We need one today, one tomorrow, one the next day. Keep on going and win this thing. We're pumped. We're ready.
3 days of fishing, but you guys like to have fun while you're out there as well. I see the cowboy hats. What's the story behind that? I mean, obviously, everybody's got their superstitions or traditions. How did this form?
Well, funny thing is, we hunt and have a ranch, and I wore a cowboy hat before. None of the team had. And one day we were from Texas, and I needed a hat to cover up in the shade, and to grab a cowboy hat, and then it caught on land, and the team got cowboy hats, and now it's like our trademark. We enjoy wearing them, and it's part of what we do. And you mentioned going out and doing there's a lot of different rituals we do, and it makes it a lot of the fun, because there's a lot of dead time when you're fishing for marlin.
One of the trademarks they do is the cowboy hats. Another one is good fishing. We're going to see another good event from them. Hopefully this week we'll have a camera with them all week long on CBS Sports and SportFishingChampionship.com.
Thanks a lot, Ron. Again, Southern Charm, just one of the teams to look at. A good insight from their team. Landon, Lisa, Mackenzie, Ron, Connor, Monroe, and Chase on board. It's a family, and they might not be related, but when they head out on this first day, they are a family, and they are stuck with each other, whether things are going well or things are going bad. But again, Southern Charm leading the Gulf Division, very consistent. Third place at the first stop, third place at the second stop, and it's those catch points that keep adding up and making the difference.
Robbie, obviously, owner Ron. He's a former football player at Tulane. He knows the game of big-time competition. He's not afraid of where his team's at in this position, the pressure that's on them. They're just doing what they do best. They're out of Houston, Texas, but they fish out of Orange Beach, so they're around home. We're going to see some of those similar areas play this week that we've seen the first 2 events as well.
Absolutely, Ronnie, and if we're watching some of the footage of coming in this morning at the Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, we're seeing all the preparation it takes to get to this point. Whether it be Rising Suns or Southern Charm, they're all, working on their bait, their live bait. These aren't necessarily, squid dredges that, that are pre-prepped, that are just sitting there waiting to happen. These are guys having to prepare that bait. When they go out, they put, the lines in the water. It's time to catch fish. Well, we've got the first day of 3 ahead of us still today. We'll also be bringing you coverage this afternoon on sportfishingchampionship.com. We'll take a closer look at the Gulf Division. Again, this is the third stop of 5. We're going to crown a champion in the Gulf as well as a champion overall in the SFC.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
Remember, everything begins in the morning. Every story told is a fisherman's tale. We build watches tough enough to be a part of that tale. The perfect balance of beauty and brawn. We are Seaholm. Watches that last a lifetime. Seaholm Automatic, the official timepiece of the Sport Fishing Championship.
See it, live it, love it. The largest in-water boat show in the world, the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show. More than 3 million square feet, fishing boats to super yachts, engines, accessories, learning experiences, and culinary delights. Save the dates, October 26th through 30th. Details at flibs.com.
It all comes back to the water, this binding agent, this fluid history of connection. Past, present, and future, all tied together through this never-ending, unwavering force. We belong to a community of seekers, anglers, and everyone in between. For us, it's more than fishing, much more. It's who we are, who we were, and who we aspire to be. We are Smith.
SFC coverage of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Salt Life, by Seaholm Watches, and by Smith Optics.
Always living the salt life here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. The title says it all. This is in the Gulf Coast, and it will be a classic this week if it's anything like the previous 2 events in the Gulf of Mexico. Sport Fishing Championship is a culmination of talent from around the country, international flavor as well, to crown the best bill fishing tournament champions. And one champion at the end of the year, awarded $1 million. Looking at the playing field here as they take off from Biloxi, Mississippi. Very similar waters. Again, the previous events in Venice, Louisiana, Orange Beach were just right up the coast in Biloxi, Mississippi. It's a gambling town. I mean, they've got everything from minor league baseball to the casinos there on the shore. But when you head out on the water for the 78 boats that are taking off from Point Cadet Marina, well, speaking of Point Cadet Marina, let's go on site with Site 1, Ronnie Moore. And this venue itself, as they launch, Ronnie, they've got several hours that they could choose to travel. We've seen 100, 200. Maybe we'll see a 300-mile journey. That is going to play a big part, is how far do you make those run? Because there's rigs and platforms they're going to be heading to more than likely.
That's the biggest thing, Robbie, that I've seen this week is a lot of teams. I said, what's the difference in Louisiana event out of Grand Island Venice versus the Gulf Shores event in Alabama the last time we were in the Gulf Division? And they said some of the pressure that they're dealing with on these places, they might be going to the same grounds generally, but some teams we're going to see they're prepared to go as far as they possibly can, 275, 300 possible miles. There's teams who have to be back by 6 or 7 p.m. on Saturday saying they got to leave their spots at 11 a.m. on the final day to make it back. So I feel like with the pressure, having about 25, 30 more teams in similar areas, they're dividing up fish unless they make that longer or shorter run than everyone else.
That's absolutely right. You see, we've got drones out there. You see the helicopter shots as well. I saw a shot that was very spooky just a moment ago. But yeah, the field is the same.
Exactly.
The playing field is the same, but the competitors are different. More people in this tournament. But when they go to take off, we'll see a tight line get very spread out very quick. But again, the championships, they are extremely tight in the Sport Fishing Championship Gulf Division, and Southern Charm leads them all with 7,700. But looking down below, Ronnie, Moncherie, they need to drop that 9th place. The same thing goes for Quantified. 1-9 are not good event points. That's the part that's killing both of those teams right now.
One thing that's interesting, Robbie, about Moncherie is they have a 1st and they have a 9th. This is their 3rd event, so let's just say they get a top 5 hypothetically and a good catch point finish here, good catch points and a good finish points. They'll be right there in the mix as well. But word is they may not fish that 4th and 5th event. They're going to keep their eye on the points race. They want to blow it out right here. They said at the dock this week, we want to win this event and get as many blue marlin as possible to where we don't even have to worry about it. And we're going to take home the $100,000 and maybe even the $1 million just with an abbreviated schedule. But they're keeping their eye on it. They may have to end up going to that Destin event if they want a shot at that prize.
Yeah, Miramar. We also have South Padre Island. Let's look back at the last event, the Gulf Coast Masters in Orange Beach, Alabama. Quantified. They showed how to get it done in a different way. It was a very surprising event. Not that there were quite a few fish caught, but it was maybe the species of fish that really made the difference here, Ronnie.
And I got to talk to Team Quantified at the Gulf Coast event. I talked to them today and yesterday about it. They did target a little bit different. They had sailfish. They had 1 blue marlin, 1 white marlin, but predominantly they were focused on sailfish. One thing that's interesting, Robbie, the point totals for the SFC point standings are one thing, but there's also a tournament within a tournament. Sailfish ended up getting them the victory in that one as well. It's going to be an interesting strategy if they go after sails again, because last week there was another non-affiliated event out of Venice. They targeted the sails and they did not bring one in. So we'll see if one more week, if they fine-tune their game plan, they can get back on the board there. But looking at Team Southern Charm, they were 5th place coming into the event, obviously knocked out another good finish, and now we're over to Team Quantified.
Yeah, and when I say 3rd place, it was a tie for 3rd. Quantified, as you had mentioned, 1 white marlin, 1 blue marlin, 7 sailfish. Really, there was only one other sailfish caught at Orange Beach, and that was Badonkadonk. So the blue marlin, they were key. We had several ties, but I'll give you those same event points. But again, it shows you just how many fish can be caught on the Sport Fishing Championship. We're seeing quite a few. Also some qualifying championship fish divisions as well from Orange Beach. I know the Invincible Boats Yellowfin Tuna was caught out of there, 152 pounds. Questionable judgments, Terry Meyer. There are a ton of big fish, but the sails seem to be prevalent, and that's what put Quantified on top.
Yeah, and I think this week in the Biloxi event, we're looking back obviously at the Gulf Shores event. The Biloxi event, a lot of people rumbling about big blue marlin possibilities this week. We know that the record for this event came 20 years ago, but they also were talking about big yellowfin tuna possibilities. They said the weather's getting right, everything is lining up, and they're hoping to do it big this week. But looking at Team Quantified, taking home 4,500 points with their catch points and their finishing points for being the top team.
Again, you just have to have that strategy. If I'm in a mix, I don't care if the sailfish might give me 75 points. If I can catch 7 of them, that could put me on top, and that's actually what happened for Quantified. Well, Quantified takes their first victory in the Sport Fishing Championship, and Ronnie Moore caught up with Quantified's Captain Justin earlier this morning before takeoff.
Hey guys, day 1 here at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. We're with Team Quantified, Captain Justin. You guys are the hot team. You guys took the title at the last event over in Gulf Shores. You got to be feeling good going into this Biloxi event. Any kind of different expectations you have?
I just hope to repeat the Orange Beach tournament.
Obviously, you guys had a different game plan. Sailfish were big there for you guys, but blue marlin and white marlin showed up for you guys as well. I think blue marlin's obviously the highest point total for you guys. You expecting to mix in the species as well this week?
We'd like to, yeah. We'd like to, all three all the way around, but we'll take what we can get.
Obviously, the last event, they were the top dog with catch points and your finishing spot, maximum points they could have got for the SFC Championship. Are you guys doing all 5 of the Gulf Division events? If so, you're in the chance for that $100,000 Team of the Year and possible $1 million at the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll be doing all 5.
Awesome. Yeah. Team Quantified getting ready just a few minutes from takeoff here, and they're the top dog from the last event. We'll see if they can go back-to-back.
Thank you, Ronnie. Captain Justin Drummond, Matt Driscoll on board, Joe Durham, James Dice, Marshall Harden, Siler Papp, and Brian Richter. It takes a team on that 64-foot Spencer to get it done. I believe they're based out of Port Aransas. If that's where they're living typically, you'll probably see Quantified work down to South Padre Island. Crawgator, the rest of the crew, they're about to take off. Go ahead and get your practice in, because it's game time. We return at the top of the hour. In about 7 minutes' time, we will be launching live for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. 78 boats take off from Point Cadet Marina in search for the big blue marlin that the Gulf of Mexico has to offer. Stick with us on SportFishingChampionship.com.
The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation is honored to be the official charity of the Sports Fishing Championship. Through this partnership and the support of donors like you, future generations will enjoy and benefit from a naturally balanced ocean ecosystem. Our education programs, both in the classroom and online, bring to life the work needed to make sure we have clean oceans for decades to come. Join us today at www.ghof.org.
Sometimes saying no can be really difficult. It's hard to set boundaries, to give yourself space and time. Hop water means never having to choose between having fun or missing out. A sparkling hop water full of flavor and packed with mood-boosting benefits that's non-alcoholic with no calories, no carbs, and no sugar. So go out there and get up to no good.
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
Serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
It's the simple things, like spending a day at the beach, splashing in the water, playing in the sand, and creating sandcastle masterpieces. Rediscover fun and family on the beautiful white sand beaches of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
SFC coverage of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Invincible Boats, by Centered Wellness, and by Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism.
The beautiful marlin, what these anglers are searching for out in the Gulf of Mexico for the 3rd stop of the Gulf Division. It's our 5th stop overall of the Sport Fishing Championship. Kind of breezy days, about 12-mile-an-hour winds, warm temperatures, chance of rain throughout, but they'll be out for quite a while. 3 different days. Let's go on site with Site 1, a man who's going to be out there with them on shore. Will be Ronnie Moore. You've seen the excitement. You've heard what the guys have been talking about. You went to the captain's meeting last night. This is a big deal. I mean, this is the premier event, and we're about to see what it's all about when they take off here in, less than 3 minutes' time, Ronnie.
Yeah, you should have saw kind of the games they were playing between boats and captains. There was about $600,000 in the prize pot last night at about 8 o'clock. Well, the clocks close at 9 o'clock, and by the time I went to bed, it was at $1.3 million. A lot of people jumped in late for some of those side bets, but overall, tagging and releasing Big Blue Marlin is on the goal of every team. I said, you think about how it was won last event with Quantified and Sailfish. Are you going to mix in those or try? And they said, we came here for Big Blue Marlin, and we're going to rack up as many as we can get. We've seen Bandito go back-to-back pretty quickly on day one of events, and a lot of teams are trying to duplicate that. So some of the fast boats today, Robbie, they're licking their chops because even with all the pressure, they're going to get out there. They're going to push it to the pins as fast as they can go after the shotgun start to make sure they get first dibs at a group of Blue Marlin.
Yeah, one of those teams I won't be looking for, Mon Cherie, Matt Capoletta, the captain of that 68-foot American Custom yacht out of Ocean View, Florida. They won that first stop. I was so looking forward to seeing what they would do at stop number 2 in Orange Beach, but really not the kind of weekend they were looking for. They're looking for a little redemption here. But when we saw Damon Schwest at the first stop in Venice, it was catch after catch after catch. I know Adrian, David, and Dustin on board that boat as well, but I'm wondering what they can do differently, or was it just a timing thing? They weren't in the right place at the right time.
Well, for a lot of these teams, Robbie, what's we don't necessarily might see on sportfishingchampionship.com is all of the obstacles these teams have to overcome. You can be 250 miles out and catch those unofficial points, all the Blue Marlin, but you have to make it back by a certain time. Just because they're on our live leaderboard doesn't mean it's official. There were 2 teams that we saw list Blue Marlin, and we announced them live during our last event, and they came in just a little bit late, or they had mechanical problems and didn't come in at all until much later. So some of these teams, you can get your work done, but it is a 3-part tournament. You got to get out there and have the preparation. You have to catch the fish, and then you got to get back on time to even have it count.
Exactly right. Toggling through some of the boats and anglers, watching them do their preparation, getting ready for this first day. It is a 3-day tournament, as Ronnie said. We take off at 11 a.m. and literally here within the next minute, or they're taking off now, it looks like, as we're taking a look from. They will come back on Saturday. They have to be at their check-in by 6 p.m. So again, everything we say is officially unofficial. We try and bring you all the catches that we can on the boats as they are live. Like, these are all live shots. We're looking at Southern Charm as they're preparing to take off, who sit, well up there in championship points, trying to keep going and doing what they're doing. But these teams, Ronnie, the pressure that they have to deal with all that money on the line, when they take off, they better get that first spot right, or they're going to be playing catch-up more than likely.
Well, and I talked to some of the teams. Obviously, when we're out of the Biloxi area right here, when you leave the Cadet Marina, you can go west with everyone else, and they're all sitting in line waiting for that. They have to get past the jetty before they take off so they don't swamp all of the boats fishing around that jetty. But if you're going to go to the east, let's just say you take a shortcut around the island, you have to be held until 11:30. So some of these teams are taking off right now. Some are going to wait because they're going to go and audible and make it to the east. Meanwhile, most of these teams are going to the west. We see some teams, and I talked to some teams that we won't have on camera, but I'm going to keep my eyes on the leaderboard for them, because some of these teams said everyone's so adamant about the blue water, but blue water doesn't always mean a great recipe. You can have 10 boats in a section of blue water and none of them are successful. I might mess around with that green water because it's only about 2 or 3 feet deep, and then it's just the same down below. Some teams are definitely going to experiment in some different water qualities and conditions that it's going to give them a lot of spots to themselves.
Again, I'm Robbie Floyd in studio. Ronnie Moore is on site with Site 1 there in the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. We'll be joined by Peter Miller tomorrow as we're toggling through our boats. As Ronnie just mentioned, and I was not aware of that, because they say that the official launch is at 11 o'clock, and that is the case for everybody that's heading out, turning right or going down, towards Texas direction. But everybody that'll be coming out turning left, they hold them till the next half hour. So the guys on the move are the guys that are looking to make their way a little westerly, Ronnie. And the other thing we haven't talked about is our rules. Our rules try and, blend in with the local rules. Every single stop has its own rules package. But here, like say the Sport Fishing Championship, this isn't a kill fish tournament. This is a catch and release. We're trying to give back to, everybody else to have that same opportunity to catch that fish another day. So everything that the Sport Fishing Championship is concerned with our billfish, they sit there, they catch them. If it's a legal catch and that leader made it up to the rod tip or they've actually made contact with the leader, that's when ours is done. They have to verify it, but that's when our side of things is done.
Yeah, we saw some absolutely incredible catches from Southern Charm in the last event. I look forward to seeing some of that footage as well. But like you mentioned, a different set of circumstances for some of these teams. We were looking through, I was watching some of the teams we were flashing back and forth between. There is one team that I want to keep my eye on this week. It's called Team Heavy Hitter. I'm very excited about this team. We should probably see this kind of feature play out. But it's 3 generations of family members there. You got the father, the son, or I guess the grandfather, the father, and now the son, all on the same boat. We're on board with them right now, checking out that team. And this is their first year, Robbie, bill fishing. They said, hey, we're not getting any younger. We want to be a part of this. You can see on the right there, Dan Hieronymus, that's the middle son. Ray right there, the long-haired gentleman, that is the father. And they got a 19-year-old, I believe. His name might be Zane. He is the son of all of the grandson and the son there. But Heavy Hitter is an interesting team. This is the first year they're bill fishing. It's a bucket list thing. They said, hey, we're not getting any younger. Let's go do this. They've already made an upgrade to their boat. There's a brand new boat on the way for them, but they're just excited to get a taste of bill fishing in the Gulf against some of these best teams.
Heavy Hitter, a 1990 Viking convertible, 57 foot in length, and yeah, family affair. We've got Mike Davis, Darius Gerard, Zach Hieronymus. So it wasn't Zane, it was Zach Hieronymus, Daniel Hieronymus, Ray Hieronymus, Zach Hieronymus. So there's one. And Dane Moore. So again, Ronnie, thanks for that scoop. And it's good to be on board. When we didn't know if they'd be on board, well, we definitely are, because these are all live shots we're watching. And the vessels, I can't call them boats. These are absolutely vessels, multi-million-dollar vehicles, spending thousands and thousands of dollars in fuel to get out and around and back, trying to catch millions of dollars worth of fish, because a lot of money is on the line. Ronnie had said a moment ago that, these side pots and, they all pitch into, you can participate in whatever pot you want to here at, say, the regional or the local event. $1.36 million, whether it be trying to get your portion of the Invincible Boats Yellowfin Tuna, or maybe they're Wahoo or Mahi pots. Again, they all add up, and there's different groupings as well. SportFishingChampionship.com will give you all the updates throughout the day when we see live catch and releases, when we're not actually on camera. But we're trying to give you the uptake and everything that's going on as they're heading out right now, trying to stay in a formidable line. Unlike, say, Orange Beach, where everybody lined up outside that buoy, and it was just an absolute mass exodus. This one, they had to take off from the marina itself.
Robbie, you talked about these are vessels. These are mini ships. I mean, I know what my house at home in Little Rock is valued at. It's not nearly as much as yours. Yours may rival the $1 million territory, but these are $1 million vessels that have a lot at stake. They have a lot of equipment, a lot of technology. And I kind of talked to some of the teams, and it's interesting to see some of these newer teams and maybe some of the veteran teams and how they balance the technology that's on board. All of the altimetry and all of the satellite images they can pull from the Hilton's Navigators of the world. Those different charts, that's what they wake up and do. Some people might wake up and look at Instagram or Facebook. These guys wake up and look at Hilton's Navigator and look at all of these charts, because it will decide every move of their day from start to finish based on what those readouts say.
Looking at the mates and the hands, the anglers, the captains. It's a fun day. It's a preparation day. Last night, maybe a little bit of the party part of the event. I know there was a lot of celebrating going on beforehand, but also they might be trying to, some of the hair of the dog that bit them last night as well. But the weather, we haven't talked too much about that, Ronnie. I saw that there's possible rain in the forecast. I don't know that necessarily affects the fishing whatsoever, but the wind could affect some of these guys, whether they're running in or running out in the next few days.
Yeah, the run in. I normally, honestly, on lakes and even in the ocean, I like to run against the waves. It's not those building waves that just keep. I like to run against those waves. You can kind of look at them a little bit more and dial it in and keep up your speed. When you're going with the waves, which these teams will do on the way back, you have the opportunity to get big air, which is not conducive for some of these boats. You do not want to do. You want to keep it steady and stable on the way back, especially managing fuel. Some of these teams have 1,400 gallons on their boat. If it takes you 700 gallons to get out and it's much rougher on the way back in, you could use 750, 800 gallons, and you may end up needing a fuel bladder on that boat as extra. Some teams have the strategy. I heard a team that had over 1,000 gallons of fuel, but they have a 250-gallon fuel bladder. I said, why? And they said, because we're going to use that fuel bladder on the way out to keep us full, and then we'll compress it, have a lot of room to fish, and we'll have all the fuel we've already packed into the boat itself on the way back.
And in case you aren't familiar with the Sport Fishing Championship or offshore fishing in general, when they have to make these hour-long runs out to their spots, if you're talking about hundreds of miles out, you can only hold so much fuel in the tank. So they put, it kind of looks like a water bed without the bed portion of it. I mean, it's just a big rubber bladder that will hold fuel. They'll fill up their tanks as they go out, and nice ceremony here, a spray from the local fire department. But they will use these bladders to get out to those spots. But not only are you talking about thousands of gallons, you're also talking about thousands of more added weight. So once they do go through that fuel, that bladder will be shrunk down and they can maneuver on that boat as much as possible. Now, it's not just one bladder. There could be two, there could be four. They have to spread those bladders even up towards the front. Could you imagine if you put all those bladders and everything towards the back of that boat, no matter how big it is, it's not now a fishing boat, it is now a wakeboard boat. And I promise you, there's not going to be one person wakeboarding out of this entire field.
No, I wouldn't want to be shark bait, or maybe they just use me, on a dredger or cut bait if you end up going in the water this week. That's not something you want to do. And looking at some of those teams, they maybe have, I saw two teams that had 250-gallon bladders, two of them in the back of the boat, kind of mini bladders. And then you see Team Crawgator on the front of their boat, one that's twice the size. Maybe it's 500, maybe it's 700 gallons in the fuel bladder, and that is strapped down on the front of the boat. That's going to give them a little less weight in the back, maybe a little bit more balance as they head out through the waves. And some of these teams, I was talking to them last night, and they whispered to me and said, some guys will say my boat can run 32, 34, 36 knots. Some of those guys like to exaggerate it. Our boat actually runs 36 knots, and we're going to be the first ones to our spot. That wasn't Team Crawgator. It was another team, and I'm not going to mention who they are. Will be interesting to see the run that they make this week.
And this is the first day of the Sport Fishing Championship and the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. They are heading out for the first day of 3. They have to be back by 6 o'clock local time on Saturday. We'll be bringing you the coverage throughout on sportfishingchampionship.com. We will have, if somebody catches one in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll give you a live update. But Ronnie, for them to do that, they would probably have to be in one of those smaller, quicker, lightweight boats. And I don't really see that happening on the front end of our show, but I do expect fish catches by the second half and later on this afternoon.
Yeah, they would have to basically go about 15 to 20 miles out, and they'd have to be boat number 1 out of the slip and have a fast boat to be able to even get prepped for fishing. But some of these guys, I love it. Some of these teams love cowboy hats. Some of these teams rock some wigs. They have all kinds of traditions. We're right here in the Gulf, so we're near voodoo country, Cajun country. There's a lot of superstitions with these teams. Even speaking on past success in their results, that is voodoo to some teams. They said, I don't know what you're talking about. We're just trying to do good today and do good tomorrow. I don't know what we did last week. And I said, well, I'll remind you all day long how good you did last week.
Well, I promise you, there was a lot of luck hopefully being had out there on the tables as well. Again, the casinos over there on the right. Southern Charm, they're not looking for luck. They're looking for good fortune as they head out today. They're breaking down some of the boats in this competition.
the sport fishing boats that compete in this event, they're very complex machines, and obviously the captain and crew spend a lot of time maintaining these machines and obviously have a wealth of experience to do so. In our particular boat, we have twin turbocharged diesel engines, Cat C32s, that push the boat around 41 knots top end and 34 knots cruise, which converts to be about 36, 37 miles an hour on cruise. It's a 100,000 pound boat. We also have twin generators that we utilize to run all the systems on the boat, the AC systems, the TVs, all the electronics that we utilize as we're out on offshore fishing. In this particular boat, we have gyros or sea keepers. The sea keepers allow the stability of the boat. When you're offshore and you're in 3 or 4 foot seas, the boat will rock quite a bit. And what these do is they create this force that will balance the boat out and make the experience much more enjoyable. The sonar is designed that it actually, when you stop, the probe goes down and you look up to 1,500 feet in any direction. So we can drop live baits to them and obviously win the tournament, catch multiple marlin. Sport fishing boats are extremely complex pieces of equipment.
Pretty interesting just seeing. I've never really got that into being, down below like Southern Charm, and just how clean and how quiet and how strong. I mean, talking about that cruising speed, 36 knots, that's 41 miles an hour, 41 knots. And when you're hauling full tilt boogie, 47 miles an hour. I mean, that is flat out getting it. And as soon as they clear those buoys and get out into the open, they will be heading out as fast as physically possible. But a nice job by Southern Charm and them explaining just how those boats are running out there on the Gulf of Mexico. And one thing, though, look at the fleet, Ronnie. Each one of these boats we are seeing right now that are heading out are big. We're not seeing smaller 30, 20-something, 30-something foot boats like we may have seen in previous iterations of the SFC.
Yeah, Robbie, I'm going to do my best to imitate what they sound when they're sitting there idling at the dock, but it's a blah, 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 blah. But when they fire up, Southern Charm says, we got 2 diesel engines, but they are twin turbos, man. And it sounds like a fighter jet when we go to the pins to head out to our spot. So to see some of these teams and all of the aspects that go into it, I saw teams fixing a pump for their autopilot this morning, 15 minutes before the show started and takeoff basically was commencing. They're fixing autopilot so that when they're running through the night or they're moving from one spot to another, they do not have to steer that boat. I mean, that's going to be something that wears you out. And also, you got to think, Robbie, no matter what graphs you have at night, when you're running, if not everything is working right, you could end up going in a circle, and that is not what you want to do when time is money out there.
Absolutely, and electronics is key. And one thing that you mentioned that I thought I remember from talking to him about other shows was that roar, that dull roar at the motors. Some of those smaller outboards don't produce the same sound. And some of these anglers believe that big, heavy rumble of these big vessels that are taking off right now actually kind of lull the fish in. They're attracted by that deep roar instead of more the whine, screechier sound. I guess it could probably sound to a fish. It could sound like nails on a chalkboard, but these anglers believe that these big boat motors could be drumming up these marlin.
Yeah, and one thing we'll see, some of these rigs, Robbie, may have, instead of 2 guys, as we're looking at Captain Kyle, I believe, with Skin Deep, our late addition to the camera crew. I got to talk to their owner, Chris, this morning as well. But when we look at these teams going out, some of these teams are going to be sharing a rig with maybe 4 or 5 other teams. And so the one aspect, when you hook up with a Blue Marlin, it could be 7-8 miles away from the rig when you land one, and all it takes is another boat just doing a little pass and sweeping in behind you. And now they are on the path that you are on, and they may, capitalize on the Blue Marlin kind of getting the rest of the Blue Marlin in that region fired up.
Yeah, that's a big factor as well. Oftentimes in the Gulf divisions, we'll see everybody hanging around different particular vessels. Those vessels being permanently out there on the water, whether they be drig reeling ships that are going back and forth, or whether they're platforms or oil rigs. But some of the depths, the depths of the Gulf of Mexico, they're trying to hit that magic spot. I know one in particular, a rig out there, Mississippi Canyon, Blind Faith, they're like 6,000, 6,500 feet deep. Not everybody's looking for that deep of water, but again, that makes no difference. If you're putting 10 people or 6 boats around the same rig, you can only cover so much ground. And Peter Miller's told us, I mean, you're fighting these blue marlin. We saw at one of our stops earlier this year somebody fighting a marlin for almost a full day. They were on with 20 hours. Eventually that fish broke off. But I mean, this is not a quick deal like, say, Dominican Republic, where they had to catch us white marlin and have them to the leader in 30 minutes. These are hour-long processes with multiple boats around fixed structure. It sounds like a recipe for disaster, if you ask me.
Well, and some of these guys are like, I'm just not going to fish around people. I just do not want to do it. I'm not going to have the pressure on my area. I don't want to divvy up 7 or 8 marlin between 3 or 4 boats where I may catch 3, but I also may catch 0 along with everyone else there. And so that's one aspect. And also, we were talking about the weather this week, Robbie, and one thing to keep an eye on, that straight, strong westerly wind. You know, obviously Biloxi's tucked up from the Louisiana, you know, the boot that extends out. Biloxi's tucked up from that west wind for the most part. But a lot of the areas outside of Louisiana where these guys are going to be going, these crews are going to be going, it's directly in that west wind. One thing that I talked to some teams, they love that counterclockwise current. We see the upwellings. We'll get into that whole entire current of the Gulf, but they like that counterclockwise nearby. With this west wind, it pushes against the counterclockwise nature of the current, and it can lessen it or it can change it. And so some of these guys who are maybe banking on what has happened the last 2 events in the Gulf in this region, it might be a little different, even though the weather out here is very similar to those events.
Yeah, lots to talk about. Peter Mill will be breaking it down tomorrow in depth as well. I know we've got some stuff to bring on set, as well as some props to look at some of the lures, some of the dredges, some of the things and the ways that these guys are going to be dealing with catching these fish. And we saw some preparation earlier with some live bait. It's not always about live bait in bill fishing. There's a perfect example right there. You do rig up, and when I say live bait, some of those are not live, but they are real bait. They'll give a little taste, say they're on a dredge back there, so that billfish will actually get a little taste of something 100%. Real, not an artificial lure or that squid chain that may be out. They'll get a taste of what was once a live fish, and then they'll have that pitch bait out ready. And whether it's a tuna they caught the day before, they've been prepping all of their fish. They've been catching these fish, building up these fish. Some might be a 5-pounder. Now they're a 10-pounder by the time they get through feeding them and keeping them alive. So again, a lot of preparation, Ronnie, and we're going to be seeing it and breaking it down throughout the week.
Yeah, as we were just looking at Captain Blake with All In, Captain Kyle with Skin Deep, and we're looking at Captain Cricket with Rising Sun. Obviously, these teams have a lot of different expectations for the week, but like you were talking about rigging the bait, I saw and talked to Team Quantified. They were rigging their ballyhoo this morning and kind of getting them prepped for the day. I said, how many do you like to prep, and do you do it daily? And they said, yeah, we're going to do about 100 of them for just today, and throughout the night we're going to have the rest of our purchased bait that we brought along. We're going to keep it, on ice. We're going to keep it cool, and then we'll begin the process of rigging it, which is, you kind of got to break down the bait fish, and then you got to build it back up in their own way so that they can have it teased out perfectly. So a lot of these teams are messing around with different baits, but also we'll know some teams are going to go catch smaller tuna and use those to attract billfish. Ballyhoo are fine, but those are going to be attracting to sailfish. They're going to be attracting to white marlin. Blue marlin will eat them, but you can also get a bigger blue marlin teased and eaten with a tuna as the live bait.
Absolutely, and even when we look at our championship fish division, where we will award a $50,000 prize at the end of the season, whoever has the biggest mahi-mahi, whoever has the biggest invincible boat yellowfin tuna, or the biggest wahoo, these are bait fish for these billfish. Now, I have seen in years past at this particular tournament, you could catch a 49, 50-pound mahi-mahi. Now, yes, you may want to put it on there for bait for these billfish, but you've got to think about it. This is a fish that they would bring into the scales before that 6 o'clock hour on Saturday. The mahi-mahi, the yellowfin tuna, and the wahoo are the championship fish. But in saying that, if I've got a smaller yellowfin tuna, I'm trying to catch those, keep them in the tuna tubes, because those are the fish that I'm going to toss out there and try and catch. So whenever you see big fish, bait fish, you're hoping that the big billfish are close by. Now we're seeing guys running, again, 47, 50 miles an hour for some of these big vessels, and they've got hours and hours on end to get to their spots. Again, it could be 200, 250 miles that these guys are running, Ronnie, and at 50 miles an hour, it's still going to take them half a day to get to their area.
Yes, and we mentioned it. There's a lot of factors. You have to be in the right area. You have to have everything go right mechanically. You have to catch the fish. One other aspect we haven't mentioned today, I talked to some teams that have had some hardships and some troubles in other events, Robbie. Normally when a human takes a boat on freshwater, they are the biggest prey out there. They are the dominant prey species when they're fishing. In the Gulf, that's not the case. You hook up with a blue marlin, you hook up with a mahi-mahi, even a yellowfin tuna, and sharks. Sharks have been taking away some of these qualified catches, some of these fish that you work hours for, like you said. You get them by the boat, you're 15 feet from grabbing the leader where you need to grab it, and 5 sharks gang up on your blue marlin or on your tuna, and all of that fight is for naught. And that's something that a couple teams expressed of, man, points do not relay how good our season's been. We have been right there if we could have just got them in 10 seconds quicker.
Yeah, and that stinks for some of those championship fish categories, because Ronnie's exactly right. I've been in these waters. I've been out there on those rigs and had the exact same thing happen. Again, it's a qualified catch as far as the billfish are concerned when they get that leader up to the rod tip, or you make contact, one of your deckhands make contact with that leader with his hand. That'll be a qualified catch for the billfish. But for those championship division fish, the mahi, the yellowfin tuna, as well as the wahoo, those have to physically come in and individually wade. And I know for the local side of things, because again, that's some of the side pot money we're talking about, tens and tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line for even the championship fish categories. They can bring 3 in. So they could have, say, a yellowfin tuna that's 150 pounds. That won't win it as far as we're concerned in our championship fish, but that still could be, say, a $30,000 or $50,000 fish for them here at their individual tournament.
Yes. Yeah, that's specifically the case. There's tag and release. There's obviously the championship division fish that value in a money rate. But looking at our catch points, the blue marlin, always the top dog, 350 points. White marlin, spearfish, 125. Sailfish, swordfish, 75. And Robbie, we've seen it every single event. 100 bonus points caught for the first blue marlin. We've seen teams, and some of our camera teams have caught that first blue marlin. They get 450, but none of the teams that have caught the first blue marlin they take the lead of the event. They do not hold the lead until the last minute. Some teams have overtaken them late in the day.
That's exactly right. And these catch points for the Sport Fishing Championship, you're not going to see all of those varieties of billfish. We will see blue marlin, maybe see a white out there, and I've heard swords might be an option to catch as well. But again, when you're talking about the Gulf of Mexico,
and sails won the last one, for sure.
As I'll say, it depends on where you were, because we didn't see many sails at the first, but we saw several sails at the last one. So again, we're not going to see possibly spearfish, but they may. And also times of day and or night, these different fish are active. These guys are out there 24/7 fishing for some kind of fish, whether it's a billfish or a championship fish.
Robbie, you were talking about the guys grabbing the leaders, the crewmates that are responsible for doing that. It just made me think, I want to recruit some retired NBA players who have a 7-foot, 8-foot wingspan. Those guys who are long and they're going to grab it before anybody else has the chance. No offense to some of the crewmates, but it seems like a lot of the captains I talked to are actually the tallest guy on the boat, other than the owner, Ron, with Southern Charm. He's a pretty tall guy as well, a former football player at Tulane, strong safety. So I'm going to stay on Ron's good side this week. But Southern Charm, a great team to talk to. We're looking at Craw Gator. Bill Butler, I saw him last night dancing around the meeting. He is the life of the party, Robbie.
Let's take a look at our remaining schedule for the Sport Fishing Championship. This is our just before the halfway point. Biloxi followed Venice, Punta Cana, St. Augustine, and Orange Beach. we still got plenty more events still that lie ahead. And again, you have to fish 3 sport fishing championships. Let's take a look ahead with Smith Optics and see such schedule. You have to fish 3 events to be qualified, whether it be the Gulf or the Atlantic. The next up is the Emerald Coast Blue Marlin Championship on June 25th. That'll be on the coast of Florida. So that'll be our penultimate round for the Gulf Coast events. And then we work our way towards the Atlantic. You see those blue A's? Yeah, we've had one. That was Dominican, or we've had one on St. Augustine. We've had a half of one, I guess you could call it, with the CNSD White Marlin Tournament. And I only say that because that was actually a dual event, Gulf or Atlantic. But it looks like if they are going to fish either the Gulf or Atlantic, it looks like they've made that push towards the Atlantic for those Dominican anglers. But again, there's 11 events in total. We will crown a champion at the International Billfish Tournament in August. And $1 million is on the line for our championship winning team. But again, it's not just the championship overall. There's also a Gulf winner who wins $100,000. There's an Atlantic overall winner that wins $100,000. Put that on top of your actual event payouts. Millions and millions of dollars are at stake, Ronnie Moore.
100%. And I'm talking to some of the teams who are going to be at the next event for our look ahead on the schedule, the ECBC, the Emerald Coast Billfish Classic there in Destin and Myanmar Beach. Some of these teams are saying, hey, we may see some new places, some new training grounds and proving grounds. We may see some guys make a long run back to these grounds. Hey, there's some tournaments in between at times, and if they get on them this week, this is the last taste they may have in their mouth before that event, Robbie. We may see teams make an even longer run in the next tournament just to get to where the most recent blue marlin catches have came from.
Absolutely, because again, there's money on the line, there's points on the line in the Sport Fishing Championship. Looking back at last year's Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, even the catch and release side of things, you have Bandito, Southern Charms, all your top 3 finishers, all in this tournament as well. Here is our Gulf Coast division, and Southern Charm, again, finished second last year in catch and release. From the event alone, just from that one category, made $15,000. But Bandito, who are currently 6th and 7th, they have success here. They won last year with 800 event points for their team. They won $20,000 at this event alone. Here's the overall in the Sport Fishing Championship, and yes, the Gulf Coast leaders are on top. You see the Doña Lucy with the catch points. They win the event, but because they were white marlin, don't quite give you quite the points pop that you would see in the Gulf of Mexico, where we're seeing more blue marlin.
Yeah, obviously the Gulf and Atlantic. The Gulf is way ahead in terms of events than the Atlantic, so we're going to see a lot of those. We will see a big shift, though, as we go up for the Atlantic division of 3 in a row. We're going to see some new teams that haven't fished with the SFC this year, and they're going to fish their 3 back to back to back. We'll see some teams who make that run from Dominican Republic or St. Augustine get involved and get their second points of the year. But looking at the Gulf standings, when it panned away, Team Molly in 10th. I'm looking at them this week, Robbie, because they have fished. There's 26 years for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. They've fished 25 of the year. The only year they didn't, the first event ever for this tournament. So Team Molly might be the most seasoned at this event. We'll keep an eye on them for the Gulf division.
Man, I hate that streak couldn't be every single one of them, but 25 out of 26, that's a pretty darn good average. We've got Moncherie, Quantified, Half a Buck, Doña Lucy, 4 winners in 4 different stops. Will we have a new winner at stop number 5? Stick with us at 6 o'clock later on this afternoon Eastern Time. We'll have a recap for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. For Ronnie, I'm Robbie. We'll see everybody on SportFishingChampionship.com.
SFC coverage of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Garmin, by the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation, and by St. Augustine and St. Johns County, Florida's historic coast.
A day out on the water could go great, or it could have a few minor setbacks. Things could get rough, or you could lose that $900 smartphone. Whatever the problem, Yugo provides unmatched premium protection for any water sports adventure. Yugo,
To get yours, visit yougowhere.com or simply scan the QR code on the screen. And remember, just add water.
Some call it joie de vivre, the joy of life. In Louisiana, it's our way of life. From music that shakes up your senses to food that wakes up your palate. That joy vibrates in every note we play and spices up every meal we serve. So come live life to the fullest. Come one, come y'all, come feed your soul in Louisiana. I'm Sean Ardway, inviting you to plan your trip at louisianatravel.com.
So, you want this, but you can't have it without this, or this, or this. Until now, introducing a new way to travel, intranationally. Get all that international charm without ever leaving the country. Right here in St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Get all that culture, all the cuisine from that culture. You're welcome. All the gram-worthy sites from that hashtag culture. It's right here at home. St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Travel intranationally.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
When it comes to performance, comfort, and functionality, we've got you covered. Performance apparel designed by anglers to make your time on the water better than ever. Salt Life, the official apparel sponsor of the Sport Fishing Championship.